The Pittsburgh Steelers rolled out Russell Wilson in front of Donald Trump, and Russell Wilson had a whale of a game. They actually looked like they had an offense. Excited about that is Steeler fan Sean Parnell, who also hung out with Donald Trump in the stadium on Sunday night. And I want to start with this, Sean. They show Taylor Swift like it feels like 5 minutes whenever she's in the stands for a game. One of our writers at Outkick, Bobby Barak, pointed out that they showed Trump for a total on the NBC Sunday Night Football broadcast last night between the Jets and the Steelers. 4 seconds. 4 seconds of airtime, which is just perfect. They didn't even want to acknowledge that he was there. But what did you see from the reaction of Steeler fans? And how do you think football fans in general are responding to Trump? I was with him at Georgia, Alabama. I know it was basically like, a concert, and he was the star attraction. It was amazing how positive it was. What did you see inside of Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium last night?
Well, first of all, Clay, I just like to say how right I was that Russell Wilson should be the starter on the Steelers. I was very clear from the very, very beginning of I was very clear. But listen, I was kind of shocked last night because I was in the booth. I was a part of all of it. Trump shows up at the game. And like you said, with Georgia, Alabama, he shows up. He's like the feature attraction at a rock concert. And he walks up to they have these in those booths. You walk down a couple steps and the crowd is out there. And the crowd just goes absolutely insane. And to Lamar, your great VIP member, he's exactly right. There wasn't a single boo in that entire place. In fact, it was like the crowd was as loud as they typically are during Renegade. Of course, they play Renegade at the start of the third quarter, every Steelers game. People were at the top of their lungs chanting USA. They were, twirling terrible towels. It was crazy. And I was at the game, so I wasn't really tracking, how NBC was showing and what they were showing. I just assumed that, of course, they would want to show that what was a very powerful moment in the stadium. And then I got to thinking when I come home, people were texting me left and right saying, I can't believe that NBC didn't show any of it, hardly any of it. And, Democrat or Republican, college football or NFL football, you would think that having a president, former president or potential future president at your game would be an unbelievable honor. And to your point, Clay, like you said, every 10 seconds we're getting Taylor Swift. And if Kamala was up in that booth, they'd have, she'd be up there cackling the whole time. She would be on NBC, much to the chagrin of all of America. But there's two different standards here. And to me, it's just shameful. It's just shameful. I hated that it had to happen that way.
Sean, good to have you as always, my friend. And I just remind everybody, Sean's Battleground podcast available on the Clay and Buck Network. Subscribe to the Clay and Buck Show on the iHeart app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Sean's Battleground show. You can also watch video of it. It's a great show, great program. Sean, take us into Battlefield, Pennsylvania right now. I mean, Florida's joined today in the mix of places with early voting underway, so I've got to get out there now and get my vote in ASAP. I can't tell everybody else to do it if I'm not going to do it, so I'm on it. But how are things looking as of today in Pennsylvania? What's the data telling us, and what do you foresee?
Well, first of all, things feel very different in Pennsylvania than they did in 16 and then they did in 20. And look, I had my name on the ballot in 20, so I can speak directly to this. In 2020, there was a ton of energy, but we just weren't as organized as we should be as it pertained to this whole mail-in ballot craze that was, of course, new in 2020. It's not new now. Well, what we're seeing today, just in the numbers, are unbelievably encouraging, and the numbers don't lie. As of last week, over the course of the last 7 days, ballot requests by party for Republicans, okay, just think about this. In 2020, over the last 7 days, the Democrats were beating us by 35,000 mail-in ballot requests. In 2022, they were beating us by 28,000 over the course of 7 days, mail-in ballot requests. In 2024, over the last 7 days, we are beating them by 4,000. And in 2020, the Democrats had a 1 million person lead with mail-in ballots. And today that number is just 300,000. And for folks who are listening, you might think 300,000 is a big number, but a million is a lot bigger. And the Democrats need the firewall that they had in 2020 in order to win. They're going to have to spend a heck of a lot more money trying to get their people to the polls. And for Democrats, that's always a tougher hill to climb than it is for Republicans. And this is just hot off the presses today, that as of right now, we have added 199,568 new permanent vote by mail voters. Okay. That is significant. We're going to cross 200,000 tomorrow. But not only will this pay dividends down at the top of the ticket, but down the ballot in this cycle, but moving forward, every local, state, and federal office holder moving forward will be in a far better place in Pennsylvania than they ever have been before. So I'm extraordinarily optimistic on this state. And look, I say that with caution because we've got a campaign like we're 10 points down. We've got a sprint to the finish, but Trump is, he's running a disciplined operation at the top of the ticket. With McCormick just below him adds an unbelievable synergy to the ticket. You have a more sort of establishment Republican and Dave McCormick, and you have Trump is just, the most electrifying political candidate of my lifetime. Trump is Trump. Those two on the ticket bring out the right combo of voters that I think will lead us to victory on election day. And if we win here, we save this country because, of course, there's a 96% chance that we go back to the White House if we win Pennsylvania.
Sean, you just hit on the sort of overall vibe and some data. And I would just add in the Cook Political Report today moved Dave McCormick into the straight toss-up. And you know this better than anybody, but when you're watching all these ads, suddenly Casey is trying to run ads saying, hey, I'll work really well with Donald Trump. Same thing is happening in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. If Kamala were dominating in those states, there's no way the Democrat senators would be including Donald Trump in their ads right now, right? That's a sign that she's not performing very well.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because if you're a candidate running statewide in any swing state, you have a phase line red where if the top of the ticket is sinking you, there comes a point in time in your race where you have to say, I'm covering myself and I'm discarding the top of the ticket. Bob Casey and his team, and not only that, but Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin and Lee Slotkin in Michigan are probably in the same spot where they're saying, I've got to discard the top of the ticket and save myself. Now, put yourself in Democrat donors' shoes who want to be contributing to Kamala in these last 18 or so days to try to get her across the finish line. She's being cast aside by senators in swing states, incumbent senators in swing states, which means that they see at the top of the ticket a trend that is not going to be reversible. Now, I say that with caution. We campaign like we're 10 points down, but of course I'm sure you saw the news from I think NBC reported that Joe Biden's not going to be appearing with her on the campaign trail anymore. There's a reason for this. It seems like that leaders in the Democrat Party are cutting sling load on Kamala Harris. I'm not saying that she can't win, but things don't look good for her right now, and people are starting to see it.
How is the Casey campaign trying to position itself here in Pennsylvania, Sean, in these last couple of weeks up against Dave McCormick? I'm assuming, we just had 3 senators here with us in South Florida in studio, Marco Rubio, Tom Cotton, and Rick Scott, right? And we're talking about the Senate races. And one thing that just keeps coming up is in every tight Senate race, the Democrat just basically pretends that they're not really a Democrat. They're like something else. I'm a maverick. I go rogue. I'm sort of an independent leading Democrat. Is that the Casey playbook, or is it just he's so known and entrenched in the state that he thinks the machine can carry him across?
Well, Casey's is an interesting case because Casey is the son of a well-known conservative Democrat and well-liked conservative Democrat governor. A lot of people in this state, especially older folks, think that Bob Casey Jr. is Bob Casey Sr. They're two very different people with two very different voting records. But Bob Casey right now is basically in the ads that he's running. And here, interestingly enough, in every media market except Philadelphia is running ads 7 figures of ads basically positioning himself as a Trump Democrat. And look, I've said it before and I'll say it again on your show. Pennsylvania closes late and fast. If you look at the internal polling and with leaners, and so with leaners are like people that are undecided, but you push them a little bit and you say, if you had to make a decision today, who would it be? What we're seeing in internal polls is 2-1 people, independents that have undecideds. 2-1 people breaking for Republicans. And that's why you've seen an Atlas in Trafalgar, Dave McCormick take a lead over Bob Casey in these last 2 weeks of the election, and Trump expand his lead. Again, say all this with caution. We got to execute, but the trends are moving in the right direction for Republicans, and I'm very, very excited about it.
What did you think of Trump in Bucks County, PA, in the McDonald's? We had a lot of fun starting off the show talking about this, but not only did raise issues about whether Kamala ever worked in McDonald's. It also was super fun. I mean, a press conference from the drive-through. I mean, the viral videos, Margot, with the Trump campaign, getting those out side by side with him. It looked fantastic. And it's driven the left crazy that Trump did this. But, man, I just think it's even greater example of his ability to tap right into the heart of fun, but also trolling at the same time. It felt perfect.
He's the best retail campaigner I've seen in just a very long time. And the left is just going crazy over it because they know that Kamala cannot do what Trump does, and they hate it. Like, there is no way that Kamala Harris could walk into McDonald's and operate a fry cook and then hang out the window. That picture of Trump out the drive-through with the little apron on and the tie waving to somebody. I thought when I saw that image, I'm like, this is the guy that they're trying to paint as Hitler? Give me a break. Yep. This is absolutely ridiculous. And again, what a genius move to draw attention to the fact that Kamala Harris lied about working at McDonald's. Of course, there's no record of her ever working there. But also the crowd and the optics of that event. The media out there saying, oh, this is a bizarre photo op. It was not a bizarre photo op. Trump connects with people in a way that the left just cannot understand, working class Americans in a way that this just escapes them. And of course, 10,000 people outside just speak to the power. When I say that, yeah, of course I'm a Trump guy, and I'm honest about that. But when I say he's the most electrifying political candidate of my lifetime, this is exactly what I mean. He's working hard for every single vote. And when you get an opportunity to meet Trump, and I know that you both have had this opportunity, but for those who are listening, he's impossible he's impossible to dislike. He's kind. If the media actually gave him a fair shake, he would be running away with this thing by 10 points. But I mean, that photo op in McDonald's, I mean, to me, it's just historic and hysterical and fun. And I think people want fun and want a little optimism in their lives today. That's for sure.
Sean, as we get let's go ahead, Clay.
I was just going to hit you. I just saw this come across. Credit to people who sent this to me. You're a Steeler fan. I don't know if you saw this. ESPN employee Ryan Clark tweeted, former Pittsburgh Steelers split on the presidential election. One side has Mean Joe Green, Jerome Bettis, and the family of Franco Harris supporting her. The other has Trump is being supported by Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. He said, different class of folks for sure. I mean, you're a Steeler fan to go after Trump supporting former players and say that they're a different class of people. I mean, what's your reaction as a Steeler fan?
Well, it's just this. Okay, so as a Steelers fan, this is another perfect example of how, to the left, politics trump everything else, even personal relationships and the bonds that they share as teammates. Like, you would like my whole life I've been friends with people on the left, but today, like, I think those very same people they want nothing to do with me now. And again, the left just worships everything. Politics is their religion, and you can't walk outside of that without being cast aside. And I think that's what you're seeing right now. Anyone on the left they just cannot fathom that people would support Donald Trump. They can't fathom that anybody that has ever had any sort of success in their life, or a member of the elites in this society, would support Donald Trump. It's just crazy to me, Clay, that the left just can't help themselves from being as divisive as humanly possible. You would think he'd come out and say, hey, look, that was a pretty amazing thing to see at a Steelers game. As a Steeler, that gives me pride in my team. Something general like that. But no, hey, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, you support Trump, so you're out of the family is essentially what he's saying. It's ridiculous.
Sean Parnell, outstanding stuff. Get out the votes in Pennsylvania. Let's win. And like you said, if Pennsylvania goes Trump, if Pennsylvania goes for the Senate candidate of our choice, then, man, everything flips overnight. Appreciate the time, my man.
Yep. Take care, guys.
That's Dave McCormick and Trump. Go vote for both. Tunnel of Towers Foundation has two missions. One's to help the families of fallen and severely injured first responders. Second, to make sure our nation never forgets events like 9/11. They do that by honoring military veterans like U.S. Army Specialist Brett Menard. He's now living in a new mortgage-free smart home in Florida. Brett was motivated by the events of 9/11 and enlisted in the U.S. Army. While on a road clearance mission in Afghanistan, Brett's vehicle was blown up by an improvised explosive, a device that is an IED. The blast left Brett a paraplegic with traumatic brain injury. Because of the support of friends like you, Tunnel to Towers built him a specially adapted smart home that allows severely injured heroes like Brett to live more independently. America's heroes need your help now more than ever. Join us in donating $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.